Ladies and gentlemen, listen, I'm going to tell you something that most people won't say out loud. Just because he's not calling you doesn't mean he's not thinking about you. See, people get this twisted all the time. They think silence means absence. They think distance means disinterest. But that's not always the truth. Sometimes silence is just silence. And the mind doesn't follow those rules. Silence has a way of playing tricks on your mind. When the messages stop, when the calls disappear, when the space between you and him grows wider, your first instinct is to assume the worst. You start telling yourself that you've been forgotten, replaced, erased, like you never mattered. But that's not always the reality. Silence is not proof of absence in someone's heart or mind. It's often just a lack of action, not a lack of memory. People carry thoughts they never express, feelings they never act on, and emotions they don't know how to handle. Just because he's quiet doesn't mean you don't cross his mind. It doesn't mean the moments you shared disappeared. It doesn't mean your presence didn't leave a mark. You have to understand that the human mind doesn't operate like a clean slate. It holds on to what it felt deeply. The laughter, the conversations, the connection, even the pain. Those things don't just vanish because communication stopped. He can be going about his day, busy, distracted, living his life, and still have moments where something reminds him of you. A place, a song, a phrase, a memory that shows up without warning. That's how the mind works. It revisits what once mattered, even when the person is no longer present. But silence creates a dangerous illusion. It makes you believe that what you had meant nothing simply because it's no longer visible. You start measuring your worth by his lack of contact, by the empty space where his attention used to be. And that's where you lose yourself, because you're equating silence with indifference, when in many cases it's just distance, fear, confusion, or even pride. People don't always express what they feel, and sometimes they choose not to act, even when something still lingers inside them. You might not hear from him, but that doesn't mean you're erased. You might not see his effort, but that doesn't mean you never mattered. Silence is just what you can see on the surface, not what's happening underneath. Being on his mind can feel powerful, almost comforting, like there's still a connection that hasn't fully broken. You imagine that somewhere in quiet moments, he's thinking about you, remembering what you had, replaying conversations, feeling something he can't quite shake. And that idea can keep you emotionally attached, holding on to hope that if you're still in his thoughts, maybe you still matter in a bigger way. But here's the truth you have to face. Being on someone's mind is not the same as being part of their life. Thoughts are passive. They don't require effort, courage, or commitment. Someone can think about you while lying in bed at night, while scrolling through their phone, or when something randomly reminds them of you. It's easy, automatic, and often uncontrollable. But being in someone's life, that takes intention. That takes action. That takes showing up, reaching out, making space for you in their world, even when it's inconvenient or difficult. You can live in his thoughts and still be completely absent from his reality. That's the part people struggle to accept, because it feels like if you're being remembered, you should also be chosen. But memory doesn't equal priority. Just because he hasn't forgotten you doesn't mean he's willing to build something with you. Just because you cross his mind doesn't mean he's making plans to bring you back into his life. A man can sit there and think about you, miss certain parts of what you had, even feel a sense of loss, and still do absolutely nothing to reconnect. Not because he doesn't feel anything, but because feeling something isn't always enough for him to act. Life moves on, distractions take over, and sometimes people choose comfort, ego, or convenience over effort and vulnerability. And while you're holding on to the idea that you're still on his mind. He's continuing his life without including you in it. That's the difference you can't ignore. You deserve more than a place in someone's thoughts. You deserve a place in their actions, their time, and their decisions. Feelings can be intense, convincing, even overwhelming, but on their own, they don't build anything real. People like to romanticize emotions, to believe that if someone feels something deeply enough, it must mean something lasting, something meaningful. But the truth is, feelings without action are empty. They exist in a private space where nothing grows, nothing changes, and nothing becomes real. You can have all the emotions in the world, but if they don't translate into consistent behavior, they don't create a relationship, they don't create trust, and they don't create security. A man can feel drawn to you, can miss you, can even care about you in his own way. But if he's not doing anything about it, those feelings don't serve you. They don't show up when you need support. They don't provide clarity when you're confused. They don't give you reassurance when you're questioning your place in his life. All they do is exist inside him, unseen and unproven. And you're left trying to interpret silence, trying to read meaning into absence, trying to convince yourself that what he feels matters more than what he does. But what someone does will always outweigh what they feel. Actions require decision. They require intention. When someone truly values you, it shows in how they prioritize you, how they communicate, how they make time, and how they choose you even when it's not easy. Feelings can come and go. They can change with mood, circumstance, or convenience. Actions, on the other hand, reveal commitment. They reveal whether someone is willing to move beyond what's comfortable and actually invest in you. You can't build a future on emotions that never leave someone's mind. You can't create stability from something that has no form in reality. If he says nothing, does nothing, and shows nothing, then whatever he feels doesn't hold weight in your life. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what he feels when he's alone. It's about what he chooses to do when it comes to you. Waiting has a way of feeling productive, like you're doing something meaningful just by holding on, just by believing that eventually his thoughts will turn into actions. You tell yourself that if he's thinking about you, if you're still somewhere in his mind, then maybe it's only a matter of time before he reaches out, before he shows up, before everything changes. But the truth is, waiting for someone's thoughts to become effort is one of the quickest ways to lose your own sense of direction. Thoughts don't require responsibility. Effort does. And when you sit there hoping that a thought will turn into a message, you're putting your life on pause for something that may never happen. You're giving power to something you can't see, can't measure, and can't rely on. Meanwhile, time keeps moving up. Opportunities pass. Your energy stays tied to someone who isn't actively choosing you. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to accept less than you deserve. There's a difference between someone thinking about you occasionally and someone consistently making you a priority. Consistent effort looks like communication, like presence, like intentional actions that show you where you stand. It's not confusing. It's not silent. It doesn't leave you guessing or questioning your worth. But when you're focused on what might be happening in his mind, you stop paying attention to what's actually happening in front of you. You start lowering your standards without even noticing. You begin to accept inconsistency, absence, and silence as if they're part of something meaningful. You convince yourself that patience is love, that waiting is loyalty, that holding on is strength. But real strength is knowing when to stop investing in what isn't investing back in you. Real self-worth is choosing not to wait for someone to decide your value. You deserve more than hidden thoughts and unspoken feelings. You deserve effort you can see, consistency you can feel, and actions that remove all doubt. So instead of waiting for him to turn a thought into something real, Shift your focus back to yourself. Build a life that doesn't depend on someone else showing up, and raise your standards to match what you truly need.